Yo, what up? What's poppin'? Back at it again with another video for y'all. And excuse the way that I look, I'm a little sleepy, but anyway, what's poppin' with y'all? I was just wanting to chat with y'all because this is a wrestling match that was supposed to go down. And that's the thing about it, too. Elijah Burke, he was actually Chris Benoit's last wrestling opponent. When Chris Benoit, when he beat Elijah Burke, like he was scheduled to go up against CM Punk for the ECW Championship. And I was just wanting to chat with y'all about this. And yeah, Chris Benoit, yeah, what he did was a tragedy. What he did was terrible. But that's the thing about it. They said that he had the brain of a 70-year-old man that had multiple concussions. I was just wanting to chat with y'all. Chris Benoit versus CM Punk. What if this pro wrestling rivalry actually happened? What if this match actually happened? What if this pro wrestling rivalry actually had went down for the ECW Championship between CM Punk versus Chris Benoit? I'm gonna give you my answer like I do as always. A pro wrestling rivalry between CM Punk versus Chris Benoit for the ECW Championship. This would have been amazing. This would have been awesome. This would have been a great storyline. But I think it was scheduled that Chris Benoit was gonna win. See, John Morrison, he ended up being the replacement. And I remember at WWE SummerSlam that year, CM Punk, he actually beat John Morrison for the ECW Championship, but this would have been awesome. This would have been amazing because that's the thing. Elijah Burke, he was Chris Benoit's last opponent. He was Chris Benoit's last opponent in the WWE, and you see, when it when MVP had made his WWE debut, Chris Benoit was MVP's first rivalry. Like Chris Benoit was the opponent that MVP had a storyline against. They had a rivalry against each other for the United States Championship. And CM Punk and Chris Benoit, they would have had a nice rivalry against each other for the ECW Championship. Chris Benoit already had success as the United States Championship. As the US champion, and he was about to have success as the ECW champion. That's the thing. Chris Benoit, he's one of the best to ever do it in pro wrestling. He became the world heavyweight champion. He became the ECW champ. Not ECW, but he became the United States champion. And if he would have went up against CM Punk, he would have became the ECW championship. But unfortunately, the tragedy had happened. But yeah, this would have been a nice rivalry. This would have been an amazing rivalry. This would have been like a great match to see, like CM Punk going up against Chris Benoit for the ECW championship. And I know the WWE, they don't like mentioning anything about Chris Benoit, but Chris Benoit was definitely one of the best to ever do it in the in pro wrestling in the WWE. But yeah, my fellow wrestling fans, let's chat. How do y'all feel about this? And how do y'all feel about the fact that Elijah Burke was actually Chris Benoit's last opponent? Let's have a discussion about this. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell on my channel, comment, share, like the video. Love y'all.